All right, everyone. Welcome into Pay Dirt Sports, part of the Six Pack Coverage Network. Today, I am here, Nick Truschel, alongside one of my good friends and fellow Pay Dirter, Seth Coggin. You could be noticing we are missing one of the boys here, Will Dundon. He is celebrating his 1-year anniversary with his wife. So obviously, he's got to take care of business from that standpoint, but the show must go on. So we are here, ready to rock and roll. Football is back, baby.
Oh, we're getting into it tonight. We're getting nasty with it tonight.
Yeah, we are.
It's real now. It's not hypotheticals. We're getting into actual action that happened in the dust and the mud out there on Saturday.
And there was
all weekend too. It's been crazy.
Some crazy stuff going on this weekend. I mean, it's about as good of a week one of college football that you could ask for.
Yeah, that's one of the best week ones from just there were some high profile, actual important, fun games. You know, I think we often talk a lot about the we enjoy home games. I think there were a lot of good home and away, not neutral site openers, but actual home and away games. And then some good neutral sites as well. Like LSU last night was awesome. So anyway, we'll get into more of all that, but definitely a really fun opening weekend of college football. Still kind of ongoing on Monday night as we record.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Georgia Tech Clemson. Is that what's on tonight?
Yeah, so they're starting here shortly. So we'll have to finish up this pod and then get to that second half.
Yeah. So
but yeah, why don't we kind of cover some of the top sports news stories of the week outside of football. So first of all, the legendary Serena Williams calling it quits. Yeah, man, she has had one hell of a career.
One of the best ever do it, right? Like, is that even a debate in female tennis?
Yeah, I mean, I know Margaret Courts back in the 70s. I think she has one more title than Serena Williams, but Serena Williams is number 2. And I mean, the dominance that she's had for a while. Yeah. And in this era,
I gotta say, you gotta think the competition's a little bit better these days in tennis. Like, winning the same amount of championships now as back in like 19. I don't know. I mean, it's not really for me to say because I'm obviously not a tennis historian or anything like that. But I gotta think that it's a little tougher to kind of extend that dominance today.
Certainly.
That's why I value something like Tiger Woods. You know, he may have a few less titles, but overall, like, he was the more dominant, like he was the greater, dominant golfer.
The run he had will never be done again.
Like, Serena at a time had a string, like she was just by far
the kind of had that same run as Tiger. Like, she basically dominated in a way that I think for a short period of time, not necessarily a short period of time, but not her whole career. But for that period, what she did was pretty unbelievable. A lot of Grand Slams.
She's really Serena's truly one of those athletes that's pretty much been the greatest since I have cognizance. Like, since I was truly born.
Lifetime,
I don't know really. I mean, I'm sure she was competing at a high level. Like, I don't know exactly when she kind of started winning actual championships. But all I can say is, like, the entirety of my remembrance of my life, which, I mean, I'm 25 years now. Like, it's not like I'm 15 years old anymore. You know, I've lived quite a long span, but she has been the dominant tennis player. She's been kind of the face of tennis along the way. So pretty remarkable run, a true great champion in a sport, in an individual sport. It is interesting to kind of talk about just, you know, the debate about greatest ever is kind of convoluted when you're in a team sport like football, when there's so many, like Tom Brady having all these rings. Well, where does that kind of measure up with just true greatness? Because he had great teams around him. But in a sport like tennis or something like that, tennis and golf especially, it's a very singular sport. So to just continue that dominance alone, to be like, you're out there, you want to talk about man in the arena, like, talk about a tennis player, just that's solo on her back. I am a true champion. I am like the most dominant we've ever seen. So shout out, pretty cool. Just open a lot of eyes to tennis. And
she has basically built women's tennis. I mean, there was obviously some greats that came before her, but I was just doing a quick doing a little research thing here right before we got on. And so Serena, she won her first Grand Slam title in 1999.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
the big thing is, so Margaret Courts, she had won some of her titles before the Open era. And what that is in tennis, only amateurs were allowed to compete in the Grand Slam titles that we know of. So after that, professionals were allowed to compete in those Open era, or excuse me, those Grand Slam tournaments. So really, I'd have to give it to Serena because I mean, there was just better talent. There was professionals allowed in these tournaments now. And so she's won the most in the Open era. I think you got to give it to Serena as the best of all time.
Yeah, I don't really think that that's a big debate. So I think that's pretty much, which is curious to see. You don't often see that when a player retires, they're already declared by far and away the greatest to ever do it. A lot of times it's like someone will retire and it's like, wow, they're really up there with the greats of all time. It's like truly like that is the greatest to ever do it. See, because even it's tough because Tiger's a few away from the actual record,
right?
Because there will be people like, no, they're like he didn't win as many, but I think he still won as many tournaments, and the way he changed golf, I think still cements him as like I would say when he retires, he's the greatest ever golf. Like he's the greatest golfer ever.
Yeah,
but he's also been a guy that's dominated my whole remembrance of golf is Tiger Woods dominating.
Right.
Like, and obviously not the last 10 years, but anyway, it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch, and I think we're gonna maybe even touch on another legend like at the true end of their careers. So a guy like Albert Pujols. What's really exciting right now is his chasing 700.
5 away.
He's 5. He is 5 away, and he's been,
he has been red hot here at the end of the season.
The problem is, see, I'm actually repping the Cardinals.
Let's go.
Pre-fall Cardinals belt. That's deep, bro. That's deep. But see, Pujols, Pujols was my whole remembrance of baseball.
Oh yeah.
When I first my first ever baseball jersey, Albert Pujols. He came up at the Cardinals when I was just a young kid who loved baseball, and he was just a legend to me. Pujols he was just the man. He was truly someone I just super looked up to, and super was like, I loved baseball. I batted right-handed, so I just liked thinking I wore number 5 as much as I could. I liked thinking I want to emulate Albert Pujols. This guy is so good, so consistent year after year, just amazing, dude. He's almost at 700 home runs. He's hit home runs off so many different pitchers. It's he's been in the league
really
since break down. Yeah, when you really break down the statistics and everything, it's so fascinating to see just to be that high level, to perform and hit that well against major league pitching for such an extended career is just remarkable. And to have there was definitely a drop off in these last kind of 6 years, probably. He really hasn't been quite, but
basically from 2001 to 2012, I think he was the best player in baseball.
Yeah. So that's a guy, but still that's a guy that when he goes out, I don't think anyone's going to say that's the greatest baseball player ever.
No, probably not, but he's up there.
He's fairly he is up there. He's been truly a legend of the game for a long time. To hold the torch as the greatest in the league for a while is really hard to do. And he won championships too. He was part of
06 and 2011.
Yeah, so he's
baseball
is the hardest sport is to truly carry a team. It is such a team sport that because in football, Tom Brady touches the ball every single play. He is the biggest part of every single offensive play. But in baseball, you're only one of 9 batters. Even if you could hit 3 home runs, but the other 8 guys, you're not affecting their at bats or anything like that. Their at bat is up to them. It is a 1v1 versus the pitcher. Even if you have a big advantage, it doesn't really mean your team does, which makes baseball awesome. But it also makes it a little harder for one player to just the basketball. You see LeBron go to the finals 9 straight times because
basketball the most you can
he has the ball 80% of the time, and you have the best player with the ball the most time, and LeBron will literally put the team on his back. and go win it. But it's a little harder when you're just batting 1 out of 9 positions.
Right.
To like, so that's why you see. I mean, you see a guy like Mike Trout,
Yeah, that's exactly what I was
the
thinking.
best
The
player in the
Angels
league,
and
best
Shohei
player.
Ohtani. So
Yeah,
they've got two of the top three probably best players in the league, and they're well under 500 this season.
like how does that happen? That doesn't happen. If you have two of the best 5 or even 10 players in the NBA, you're gonna be like super high up. I mean, that doesn't even
Going to be
happen often.
competing for a championship for
Yeah.
sure.
So interesting to see how different sports work. And then just it's kind of in team sports, it's like, where does your advantage lie? Does it lie in the fact that you're not, like in baseball, your 8 hitter is significantly better than the other team's 8 hitter? Like you're down the lineup, you're just kind of better overall. So eventually you think it kind of helps out. But in football, if your advantage is your quarterback, it's awesome because he gets the ball. He has control of the ball every single time. Like if your advantage is wide receiver, it's like, well, I mean, yeah, that helps to have better wide receivers in the other team, but they still got to have a good quarterback to get him the ball. They got to have a good offensive line who can block long enough so they can run the routes. Like it's interesting to see kind of where teams can gain advantage and stuff like that, but very different than the solo sports.
Exactly.
That's kind of what it comes down to. Tennis is fun because it's truly a 1v1. Like
Yeah.
golf even is a tournament style. That's just it's a fun. Serena, back just to circle all the way back to Serena. Just truly great to watch the full career of a true champion and to watch her through, and that means you struggle and you struggle in the public eye, and like things can get said at you and everything like that, but you take it all in stride and you keep continuing to get better and keep winning, and you just keep keep winning over time does make people, you earn a lot of respect. So shout out. Doing at the highest level for that extended it's hard. Not many
It is
people are
hard.
able to do it. True American champion. Shout out.
Shout out Serena, shout out Albert. Why don't we talk a little Titans football before we get into college football here? Couple of big news stories. Well, obviously the major news story, losing Harold Landry
Oh,
to an ACL tear. Man, I
that's
can't believe
brutal.
it. It is brutal. But I'm thinking Bud Dupree comeback season. We're gonna need him to really show out this year.
Yeah.
Obviously Simmons is going to be Simmons. He's an absolute animal, second best defensive lineman in the league, I'd say at this point.
Nico
Behind Aaron
Autry's still a
Donald.
beast.
Yeah, Danico Autry is still very good. We'll see if Rashad Weaver, draft pick from last year who got injured, he was a guy that
He's
fell
looked good.
because he was projected to be a first rounder at kind of the beginning of the college football season, kind of fell to more of a second rounder spot before the draft, then had some like kind of criminal allegations, if I remember correctly, but it was something that got dismissed, and that it turned
Yeah.
out that it was a lot bigger story than it needed to be. So he ended up falling to the 4th round, but a guy that has a lot of raw talent that we're going to need to step it up big this year to fill in that pass rushing role that Landry had.
Luckily, whoever fills it in is in a pretty good spot because the rest of Harold Landry is an awesome player and very hard to replace, but the rest of the defensive line is still really strong, which puts, a little less true emphasis on you just being a total game change. Like you don't have to come in and just be the best pass rusher in the league. We just need someone who can be really solid and make some big plays. But we need everybody coming and make some plays, but you're going to be put in a position with really good teammates beside you. I mean, Jeff Simmons and Danico Autry are eating that metal up. They absolutely are dominating the inside. And you have a guy, Big Jeff. I mean, Big Jeff is probably the second best D tackle in the league, truly. And that's not just hype.
Most people, coaches and people who follow football will agree on that.
Like he is dominating the interior. So if Bud Dupree's solid, he's going to have a good year. He should. Now, he may come out and suck, but I really doubt that just because that doesn't trend with his career. So I think he'll be really solid on the other end. And Rashad Weaver's shown a lot of potential. He's shown really, really bright moments in some of these preseason games, especially before he got hurt. I mean, everyone was kind of excited about him last year.
Yeah.
And all he's done this year is kind of back that up. Like it was deserved hype. Like he is looking pretty good. Wearing number 99, right? That's
Yeah.
very sweet. Could be pretty sick if he has a good year. I mean, even if he doesn't even have to do Harold Landry numbers for our defense can still be solid. We just need him to be productive. Like we need him to come
Right.
out and not be a liability and make some plays. Like, and that's kind of your job as a pass rusher is literally just to, be solid, set the edge and wreak havoc at times. Like, whether it's coming off and just beating the left tackle or, anything. Just to cause disruption, batting down passes, chasing guys down. So he's plenty athletic enough. It'll be fun to watch him play. Hope he can stay healthy, obviously, but that's everybody. So it I think the defense is set up to have a really good year. I don't want to be like too positive, like too
Yeah,
overblown
our
positive,
defense
but
was incredible last
yeah,
year. I don't know if we'll quite be able to be at that level, but I also don't know because I feel like our secondary is going to really,
yeah,
really
it's even
step
going to be
up this
better.
year too.
I would
Yeah,
like,
because Farley is back. He's been playing very well. Christian Fulton, another year under his belt. Hopefully he can stay healthy. And then Elijah Molden, obviously a great piece at the nickel spot to have. And then McCreary from Auburn has looked
yeah,
great as well. So
yeah, you got a lot of guys, talented guys that you can throw in the mix. That can do a lot of things. That are very versatile. Can make a lot of plays. I think you got a lot of playmakers out there that actually can do some
yeah,
pretty awesome stuff. Shut
plus the
people down. I
best
mean,
safety duo in the NFL with
yeah,
Amani Hooker and Byard.
they've been together for several years now and are just playing at. Byard played great last year,
Yeah,
and
first team All
so
Pro.
I think him being back and still just leading that defense. He does. He's a captain out there. It's really nice to have a guy like that. That's a super productive player as well. Good in coverage and stuff like that. And then our safety duo is pretty nice with it. They're very strong. They complement each other very well. Hooker's pretty nasty out there, so
Yeah,
be fun to watch. They're gonna play Titans. Like, I don't know if the Titans will ever truly like evolve into like a high flying, just super. Titans football is just kind of gritty and grind it out, and hopefully beat you by in the end. Like we're gonna run the ball at you. We're gonna have a stud defensive line that's just gonna eat you up and make like you're gonna have to beat us. It's gonna be fairly lower scoring than normal. And then just kind of hope in the fourth quarter we're right there with it and trust, that we got some better players to pull it out in the end.
yeah,
That's how the NFL works. I mean, that's how the NBA works a lot of times too. It's kind of like you get to the third, fourth quarter, and then you actually unleash like what you need to do to win the game. You kind of quasi feel each other out. You make some plays. The intensity of a second quarter of an NFL game in like week 3 is just like nothing crazy. Like, yeah, they're out there, playing NFL football and flying around, but there's a definite different feel from second quarter in Jacksonville week 2 than there is AFC championship, third quarter. Like people are playing at a different level.
yeah.
So you kind of feel each other out and you just kind of try to wear each other down. That's a big part of football too, is why the fourth quarter is so important, is like everything you do during the game is kind of built to wear the other team down. So in the fourth quarter, that's why we see Derrick Henry. He gets stronger through these games, even if he has 30, 40 carries, because he just wears the defense out. He just wears them down. So anyway, it does suck to lose a guy like Landry. I mean, don't want to sugarcoat it because that is very unfortunate.
Definitely a bad loss, but we can make.
And you can't ever directly replace him. Like I don't want to ask Rashad Weaver to be Harold Landry. Like he's not Harold.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Like, but a really good Rashad Weaver helps us in the defense, and it might even help us in some ways that Landry didn't. But in some ways it won't. It's hard to you can't directly. That's all I'm saying is you can't directly replace a guy like that. It does just take more guys to step up around him and do different things. So,
and one last
I like Ola. I like Ola.
Oh yeah, Adedigne or
Yeah.
however you
Hey,
can.
voted. I saw he was voted a cat, or he's a team captain.
Yeah, special
Special
teams captain.
teams.
Yeah, he's a beast on special teams, man.
Yeah,
He's one
and
of
he
the
can
best.
come in and give you some good reps. I saw
Yeah,
him do some good things defensively this year. So
yeah. Another thing that I'm excited about, kind of the last piece of Titans news here is Mr. Josh Gordon getting a second chance, signed to the practice squad, or probably fourth or fifth chance at this point. But signed to the practice squad. We'll see if he. I hope he makes the team. Honestly, I mean, we can use the help at receiver for sure.
yeah, I hope he deserves a spot on the team. Yeah,
Yeah,
if he comes out and balls out, and it's like, yeah, he can play for us, he can produce for us. Then yeah, come on, bring it on.
yeah, definitely over the hump. 31 years old at this point, but hey, if he can provide some good reps, so be it. I'll take him.
He makes our wide receiver room better. Then come on,
Yeah.
we got plenty of room. I mean, I don't know if he'd been my first choice off the. I don't know who's available, so it
Odell
sounds
is
like
still available. But I mean, the
I'm nice
money
with
that
it.
he would cost is probably
Yeah.
not going to be
Yeah.
worth it, I would imagine, because you know he's going to be asking for a good chunk of money still.
Yeah, it's hard for me to think that Josh Gordon has had other opportunities to like actually be on a team. I mean, he was just in a team camp,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not like we're just picking him up.
He's been with New England, Kansas City, um, Seattle,
See,
and
Kansas City doesn't have a great wide receiver room, in my opinion. Like
yeah, and that's who
if
cut
he
him.
was really a great player, he would have made that team. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't get me that excited just because I think he would have made the Chiefs if he was really good.
Right.
Or if he was good enough. I mean, it would make me I don't know. But we did McGrath did just get hurt, didn't he? Is he the one that just went
Racing
on the yeah.
McMath.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did get hurt. I don't know if it's going to be super long term, but he's
Yeah.
definitely going to miss some games. So yeah, he was placed on IR alongside Cody Hollister as well. Or no, excuse me, sorry. Cody Hollister was who was added to replace Racey McMath.
Yeah.
So if Josh Gordon can't get ahead of Cody Hollister, I don't know. But obviously he's still getting involved in the team, learning the playbook. So that doesn't necessarily mean he won't see some playing time later this year, but
Yeah. I mean, truth is your sixth receiver doesn't really play that much anyway.
No.
Like it's not like this guy's seen a ton of reps, but it'd be nice to feel confident in every guy you have on your roster, though. That's kind of my bigger point is if we're going to, I mean, they may only carry 5 receivers, I guess, but I don't know. Not exactly. I think the Titans receiving core, that top 5 guys is good. I'm pretty happy with that.
yeah.
I think that gives Tannehill is notably like one thing he does well is use options. He's pretty good about spreading the ball out, like all targets, especially, there were a few times last year, like where he would get dependent on one receiver or something, but he's pretty good traditionally the last several years on hitting everybody. So you have guys that have different kind of skill sets. I think Kyle Phillips is going to be a nice add into the
Huge
offense.
add.
I think you added a really good complementary pair of receivers in Burks and Phillips. I think that's going to play off really well to each other's strengths. I think,
And then
it's
hopefully Robert
been
Woods
funny
makes some
like
noise as well, of course.
yeah, it's been funny in camp because you compare them to each other, but then you think about them on the same offense and they're playing complementary football. Like they have to work together. So Burks, Woods, and Phillips is a really good set of 3 receivers with different skill sets, can do different things, but can work together in the offense to be pretty effective, I think. And I like NWI. Westbrook Akina, I mean, no one really thinks about him much, but he's a solid guy. In the right, he makes some really good catches sometimes. He'll make some tough catches over the middle sometimes. And I think given an even more opportunity, like he's been fairly efficient. He doesn't have crazy numbers just because he doesn't get crazy targets, but he's been an efficient receiver in the past, and I think he can do some good things. So I'm pretty I'm pretty happy with that side of the ball. The offensive line worries me, and that's not a great place to be worried.
Yeah.
Offensive line, like if you're worried about your offensive line, that is scary because that does dictate so much. But I, I, I think they will pull it together and be pretty solid. The Titans have had good offensive lines in the past. Like anyone they've kind of shuffled in there has been ended up a pretty good unit. So they may have some struggles certainly, but I think overall they'll do pretty good. I think we're upgraded at tight end from last year.
Yeah, Austin Hooper is another big receiving threat.
Yeah.
I mean, he's almost a wide receiver, really.
And I feel like it's kind of gone under the radar. Like no one really talks about the addition that he could add to the offense. So I you could say, I mean, improved at most positions, honestly, on offense, except offensive line. But really, that's only like Saffold was even getting up there too. I mean, not to say he was not a good player with probably some good years left, but he's not quite the player he once was.
Right.
I'm worried about Lawan. I just
feel like
don't
he
know
could
if he's
have a
still got it.
regression.
I'm starting to think like I feel that coming for him. I don't know. Like, I'm not bashing him or anything. Like that's what happens to all players. Like Father Time hits us. And I just saw him struggle at times in ways. He's just not quite the road great. Like he used to be a really solid. I mean, all pro. He's been maybe not all pro, but Pro Bowl offensive line.
Yeah.
So he's obviously done some really good things over the course of his career, but he just doesn't quite have it like he used to, I don't think. But hopefully he proves me wrong. That would be very awesome to see. I still think he can be a solid contributor, but there are times he has been a liability in the last, mostly in the last year. But not that many plays. He gets soloed out a little bit because it's kind of easy as a left tackle too. You're more visible over there, and you go against some of the tougher matchups. So can be a little more difficult at times, but we'll see. I think they improved at wide receiver overall, and yeah, we'll see if someone can step up and be a true wide receiver one. I really still think Burks has it in him. I think it's going to be fun to watch him play with Tannehill because I think that was one thing that was for all Malik Willis will probably and hopefully do as a Titan. He's just not quite there as a passer, quite yet. So I'm excited to see Burks play with that one offense and Tannehill and everybody play together. Whew. We're at it now. Who we got? Giants mid-afternoon, right? Not a nooner. So it's 3:30 game Central Time.
Yeah, it should be a good one.
It's at home, right?
Yeah,
that'll be sweet. That'll be turn. That'll be fun.
It's gonna be a fun one. We might have
going. You got season tickets or anything to the Titans?
No, I don't have tickets, but honestly, I might see if I can scalp some day of or something like that and pull it off because it'd definitely be a fun one to go to for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there'd be some tickets out there.
Yeah,
someone hooked Trushel up with some tickets. Come on now.
Yeah, if any listeners got some extra tickets they want to donate to the Pay Dirt Collective, go ahead and send them our way.
Yeah. Pay Dirt Collective are one future of the Huskers, Vols, and Razorback. The Huskers, I got a feeling we're going to get 2 out of 3.
Huskers might screw us. But Arkansas, Tennessee, I have faith in. And speaking of some college football, why don't we go ahead and
let's rip into it.
But first, I want to kind of hear a little bit before we get into this past weekend. 12-team playoff. Coming, baby. That's going to be.
It's pretty solidly coming, cool. Right? It's.
Yeah, it's.
I don't know if it's in stone, but it's coming.
Yeah, it's pretty much. I know they voted, and they probably it has to be completely confirmed or something. But I think it's 95% for sure going to happen. So that's exciting. I think it'll be cool, and obviously, more playoff games will be fun. I just don't know if it'll make that big of a difference because it kind of just seems like the top 2, top 3 teams every year are just head and shoulders ahead of every other college football team, at least in playoff history so far, which really hasn't been that long. It's only been 7 years of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it'll be
See,
interesting, but
I do. The one thing that I am really glad that they did, I, I'd always thought, 18 made a lot of sense, but I actually like if you're going to expand it, 12 is a really good number to me because, like you just mentioned a second ago, we've seen a wide gap from like number 1 teams to like number 4 teams most
yeah,
often. But what I think you're going to see is there's a lot of similarity between number 4 and number 12, or number 5 and number 12. Like I think
right.
there's a lot more, they're a lot closer 5 to 12 than they are even 1 to 4 or 1 to 5.
Mhm.
But you've seen but my thing about it is, yeah, maybe not every year, but you've seen a 4 seed win the playoff. You've seen a
Ohio
3
State
seed
did
last year
too.
win the playoff. Like you've seen these teams that aren't the number 1 or number 2, even though like they have come in and won it. So yeah, it might not happen every year, but they have done it. So I think there's a notion, because at some point, if you have a 12-team playoff year after year after year, I promise you at some point number 6 is going to win. Number
Yeah,
7 is going to win. Like because
it'll
anything
happen
can happen in
eventually.
a star quarterback could be out the first 4 games of the season. They lose 2 of them. They win the next 8. Yeah, they get seeded number 6, but they're still in the playoff and they are the best team and they end
That
up
is
winning.
true. That is true. Yeah.
So I think the notion that, no one ever wins it outside of the top 4, because no one's in the tournament to win it outside of the top 4. Like, yeah, of course, only one of the top 4 team wins it because those are the only teams that could win it. So if you give me more teams, yeah, probably the first, or like honestly, 1, 2, or 3 is probably going to win the national championship like 8 out of 10 times. But that means 2 out of 10 years a long shot wins the tournament. So I don't know. I think it's exciting. I think they made a really, really good call to put 1 round of games on campus. Like that itself adds so much intrigue to me that I think it really highly positive. It's essentially, you're not even really changing the system of, what's going on now. All you're doing is the bowl games, instead of just being regular bowl games, there's still kind of going to be there's going to be a New Year's bowl schedule, and it'll actually just be part of a playoff. So like more of those teams will be going, and having home playoff games is just electric. That is so sick to have. Like we were just talking, like if Arkansas was actually hosting a home playoff game, it'd be like the biggest event in the state's like at least athletic history. Like home playoff game would be just awesome. And any campus that gets to experience that, I think it would add a lot of intrigue, because anyone would just show out for that. Think about Neyland for a playoff game.
Yeah, me and a couple of buddies were talking about that. That is, man, it is going to be insane if
Because
we get to.
I think you'll see too a lot of good games between 5-12 seed, 6-11. I think you'll see a lot of really competitive games in that bracket there, and then you'll reseed before you have the 18 tournament. But I think it's fun. I think it's fun. I don't know if it's the right or wrong call. I guess we'll determine that in quite a while. But I think it's a lot of fun, and it gives a lot more teams excitement about possibly making the playoff. Like it, okay, just in all reality, being an Arkansas fan, it gives me a great more bit of hope that we would make the playoff sooner than if it's a 4-team playoff. Like, I think we definitely could make it if things really fall perfect into a 4-team playoff. But if it's a 12-team playoff in the SEC West, I think it's more yeah, we have a better chance of making it. And I would love to make the playoff. So I think it's awesome for so many more programs. Obviously, teams can have great runs and make it in, but I can just think of so many teams that have been pretty close recently. Like think about a team like Oklahoma State. Like they have for the last like 12 years had some really good teams, been right at the top of the league. But they've never quite, like last year especially, they were 1 win away, finish on the 1 yard line essentially, and lose the conference championship, so they're knocked out of playoff contention. And that's kind of there's been several, back in when they had guys like Des Bryant stuff, had some really good teams. Like they could get in the playoff a year or two, and it changes the dynamic of like it having more success. I just think there's so many programs that could have a little more hope, that they're going to make the playoff. than currently do have it. Even though, and I don't think it's going to make college football games less fun or less exciting. That's what some people's argument is going to like make games matter less in the regular season. And I get the point to an extent, but the most fun about college football is games that don't matter at all. People still care so much, like that don't matter in the national picture. People still care so much and they have so much fun and they're so chaotic and the players care so much and try so hard and like go, even if they're, yeah, we can't win the national championship, but we're going to go so hard against our rival school because we're out there to play football, not because I'm trying to win it. Like, yeah, I might not be trying to win a national championship, but I'm still trying to win this football game. And so that's what makes it so fun in the essence of football. The fact that more teams might play for the national championship should only bring some excitement to everyone. But I don't really know where, like, are you excited about it, Nick? Like, you think it's a good idea, a bad idea? I'm still a little like, I
I'm
guess
just kind of unsure at this
yeah.
point. I'm excited about it. It definitely, just because I mean, who doesn't love more intense playoff football? I think that's going to be a big part, and especially like you said, talking with the home games, I think that's just going to create a great experience for fans. So I don't quite know yet. We'll have to wait and see in terms of actually how it affects the landscape of college football and how many of these teams are gonna make a big run as a 6 through 12 seed. But for the fans, I think it's going to be an awesome experience. So from that standpoint, I'm excited about it. In terms of kind of changing the landscape, not really too sure exactly how that's going to play out. It'll be interesting to see. And the first time one of those lower seeds ends up winning a national championship is going to be awesome. It'll, like you said, it'll have to happen eventually. That's just how it works. Something crazy will happen. Guys will get injured. Or like you said, I kind of hadn't thought about it from the standpoint where a quarterback gets hurt through the first couple of games and then they go on a 10-game win streak. That team could be the best team in the country at that point, but since they lost those first couple of games early, they don't get in. So I think scenarios like that are going to be the best shot to have one of those higher seeds end up pulling something off. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what it entails.
Yeah.
But yeah, time will tell for sure.
See, like it's kind of unfortunate that this season, like now that it's introduced in my brain, this is just how my brain works. Now that it's in my head, it's like I like it to happen now because honestly, like this is Arkansas's best team in a while. I really think this year we'd have a good chance.
Definitely,
and Tennessee probably would have that same hope. Like Arkansas and Tennessee both this year could be like, I probably don't see us making the 14 playoff just in all reality. But finishing as a top 12 team, I see as a real reality, like a real legitimate. I mean, that's if Arkansas goes 9-3, they're probably a top 12 team,
right?
Something like that. They're right at it, at least in the SEC West with their schedule this year. You go 10-2, and now I'm in the playoff, which is a lot more realistic than going 12-0. 12-0 is so hard, or 11-1.
Yeah,
it's just so difficult. In the SEC, especially well, we can just kind of rock into like the actual games, but Arkansas's first game is Cincinnati.
Yeah, that was a hell of a game too. Cincinnati's better than I thought,
dude. Since 2018, Cincinnati is 44-7. Like their program
that's like Alabama numbers.
That is like Alabama. Now, to be fair, that is almost probably about exactly the same as Alabama. And to be fair, they do play. Obviously, they don't play in the SEC, so it's a little bit different. But they play. I mean, they played some good last year. I mean, last year they lost a few guys, but this is just a testament to the strength of their program. They went into Notre Dame and beat a top 10 Notre Dame team by 2 touchdowns on the road. Like that doesn't happen to normal, non-power 5 teams.
Right.
So Cincinnati, Luke Fickell is legit. And yeah, it was a fun, dude. What a fun atmosphere week 1. Just Razorback Stadium was rocking. A lot of packed out. It's really encouraging to see. And every time, there's not that many games a year at home that people get super juiced about, that like they truly there's a difference between a lot of people in a stadium and like a truly like packed out and rocking stadium. There's just a different energy when like it's totally full and everyone is juiced. You had a whole off season to get amped about this squad. Everyone's excited about them. So they came in strong. Cincinnati, honestly, Bearcat fans showed out a little bit. It was nice to see they had a good section. They were loud, and it was a hot day. Hot sun, 2:30 game, just brutal down there on the field. And the away side is on the east side of the stadium, so they catch sun all afternoon. The west side gets kind of shaded by the stadium, but the east side just brutal sun. That's where the student section is too, and the visitor side. And there was one moment in the fourth quarter when like Cincinnati got within a touchdown, and it got loud. Like Cincinnati, the Bearcat fans like stood up, and I was shout out. You know, they've been in the hot sun for 4 quarters. They were losing the whole game. Like the game was fairly close at the end. The score was only 7 points, but Arkansas led the entire game. A lot of the game led by at least 2 scores. And also ended with the ball on about the 10-yard line. So really in terms of kind of dominant, not that they really dominated the game, but they controlled the game for most of the game. And that was really, really encouraging to see against a really good program that expects to win. I kind of mentioned that stat about 44-7 because it's just for 5 years, the entire time like Luke Fickell's been there, the expectation of that program is they go win. Like if they step on the field, they win the game. So even though they had lost quite a few players, that's just a testament to the program, and they should have a really good season as well. Now I'm a big Cincy Bearcats fan. That's a great way it works because, you know, we took care of business. We did what we were supposed to do. Spread was 6.5, win by 7. You know, do exactly kind of what you're supposed to do. Just go businessman like win. Key takeaway into the game. This is what matters in football. These moments. There's 5 minutes, 49 seconds on the clock. We get the ball. They have just scored. It's a 7-point game, 31-24. We controlled the entire 5 minutes, 49 seconds, 10 straight running plays, ran the whole clock out, and ended the game without them touching the ball again. Like when you think about college football, think about how much chaos can happen in the last minute of games. In the last 2.5 minutes. There will be games where you have 5 scores in the last like 2 minutes of the game where it's just truly chaotic. So when you have the ability to, at the end of the game, in the end of the fourth quarter, they know you're running the ball and you run it 10 straight times, you pick up 3 or 4 first downs and you bleed the entire clock and they don't even touch the ball again. That's just diabolical. Like that makes you so hard to beat if you're able to kind of control the game like that in the most crucial moments. Because crazy things happen, you know, they could go down and score. If they even touch the ball, they go down and score. Maybe they even go for 2 and they win and you don't, you know, it's over for you. Just awesome, encouraging to see. Top 25 win for the Razorbacks. Another SEC game up, or I guess our first SEC game upcoming against the South Carolina Gamecocks. So a sneaky good game here in week 2, an SEC matchup. I think we're a little more battle tested than South Carolina. Like I think it's really positive once you get past that hurdle and you win that first tough opening game. It probably helps you a little bit in the second, third, fourth weeks. Just being a little more prepared to go out and compete at a really high level. Like you got to bring it. And I think we know we got some areas to work on and where you can get better. And I think that's the exciting thing. To win a big game and know you can still play better is exciting to think about your team. So, you know, a little bit different than Tennessee's opening week game, but like no less reasons to be encouraged. You know, Tennessee, even though their opponent wasn't quite, they
amazing
just
amazing
looked
offensive
awesome.
show out.
Yeah, amazing.
Hooker looked great. Running back room looked great. Defense, I mean, they didn't put up a lot of points, but it still didn't seem like we were getting a lot of pressure. Ball State's quarterback was getting the ball out pretty quick, though, and I think that was part of their game plan is we're going to have to get the ball out quick and get moving if we want a chance to win this game. So overall, pretty happy with it. I mean, not a ton to talk about just because exactly what we thought was going to happen happened, but definitely a good sign for the offense. Everything was clicking. Cedric Tillman and Hendon Hooker were hooking up. And just overall, quick shout out to Brentwood Bruin alumni Walker Merrill catching a touchdown in the game.
Saw
so
that.
that was awesome. Got to see one of our fellow Bruins make some noise for the Vols. But yeah, overall, just pretty happy win. More excited about actually getting into SEC play, but Tennessee does play Pittsburgh next week, who had some trouble with West Virginia, ended up squeaking out a win by 7 points. Their defensive line looks incredible, which was what was expected. I mean, they always have a good defensive line, and they were returning a lot of starters. Keaton Slovis, he looked real nice, had 300 yards, touchdown. So yeah, I mean, our work is cut out for us, but excited for that Pittsburgh game, then excited to get into some SEC play. Speaking of SEC play, something that we called correctly in the in last week's episode, Georgia still having that natty buzz going, beating the absolute dog crap out of Oregon. Bo Nix, terrible. I mean, he couldn't get anything going against that Georgia defense. So I think and honestly, with how bad they beat them, I'm a little nervous that Georgia might still be the real deal this year. But it could still be that natty buzz rocking and rolling. But obviously, SEC play is going to be a lot different than a Pac-12 team. So excited to see how that plays out. But Oregon, yeah, they might.
That might have been
issues this year.
That was a little more extreme than I even expected.
Yeah,
it makes me really curious how they ranked Oregon number 11. Like, what really on that team made you think, yeah, this is going to be one of the top like 10 teams ish in the country?
Right.
Because I didn't watch the game, but I've seen quite a bit of it. It was at the same time as the Razorback game, so I was at the stadium. But I've seen enough of it to look and be like, what? Like, how did you come to the conclusion? It's just, it makes me, it's another example of preseason rankings being a farce, like being an absolute joke. Now there are trends that they generally get right, but other than that, it is an absolute joke on like how they actually rank these preseason teams. So yeah, they got absolutely blasted, a little more than a natty hangover buzz, because they were rolling pretty good. I'm not quite as confident in the hangover effect as I once was. They looked hungry, but I think they have a potential to fail. But I'm starting to think it probably won't be like 9-3. It like failure would be like 10-2. But hey, if one of those losses to the Vols, then I mean that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Couple other games that I wanted to get to before we talk about the major crazy game from last night. Florida and Utah, man, that was a great game. Florida getting the win against number 7 Utah. So 2 Pac-12 teams having trouble with 2 high-ranked Pac-12 teams having some trouble with some SEC players. So, or SEC teams, excuse me, and SEC players. But yeah, Florida, close game, ended up outscoring Utah by 8 in the fourth quarter, and then sealing it with an interception to win that game. So it made me a little bit more nervous in terms of the Florida-Tennessee game, just because Florida did look good. Anthony Richardson, he took some strides this past off season, because he was making some magical plays out there, and he looked big, strong, fast, all the above, great athletes. So I still think we got a shot. It's in Knoxville. And I really, really want to beat Florida this year, but definitely makes me a little bit more hesitant seeing how well Anthony Richardson and that Gator team played.
Yeah, that was an impressive win.
It was, yeah. Utah's,
and it was a fun game. That's kind of one of the games that, what a unique college football game, and it was a home site in the swamp. That place was rocking.
Yeah,
first
it always is.
Just a crazy atmosphere. And Utah, shout out Utah, was balling and doing, like, it's not an easy place to go play, no matter how good you are. And so, but impressive for Florida. I mean, to Utah's obviously got a lot. It's a little bit tough because you see, Oregon's ranked number 11 and they're obviously not that good. So is Utah really that good? Like, they're just a Pac-12 team, and only time will really tell. But I would imagine they actually, to me, impressed me
Yeah,
pretty good. Like, I think they are
Utah's
pretty
better
good as
than
well.
Oregon, I would think.
And so just a big win. I mean, just a really big week 1 win. Even I still don't see Florida as having just an insanely great year. Like, I don't think it doesn't make me automatically be like, oh, Florida's amazing. Like, yeah, they're gonna be awesome all year.
Especially in week 1. I
Yeah,
mean,
week 1's just
anything could
so hard.
happen.
It's so hard to gauge. It give me at least 3 weeks before I'm really starting to build a basis on how good the team is. So they get another tough test in Kentucky. And if they beat Kentucky, I mean, that'll be pretty impressive to start the even though I don't think very highly of Kentucky, they are still a congruent program that's been together for a few years. We talk about that. I especially try to harp on that sometimes, and that's what a team like Utah, they've had their same coaching staff for a while. They've had success. To beat a program like that is pretty impressive. So if they were able to beat Utah and beat Kentucky back-to-back weeks to start the year, that'd be big time, and then put them a leg up in just kind of SEC East, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, they don't have a leg up on Georgia just because Georgia's better, but it just puts them above in the other tier. But then that showdown at Tennessee is going to be fun because that will be their first big test away from home, and Tennessee is a win this weekend away from being truly popping that weekend. Like, if they go win at Pitt, which they should do, like just like we kind of said about Arkansas being a 6, like Tennessee's a road favorite. Like, they are favored to win this game. Take care of business up there in Pitt and come back, and then we'll get Neyland just absolutely rocking for the Gators.
Oh yeah, I'm excited, super excited for that. But the other big game that I wanted to talk about before we get into Florida State LSU is Notre Dame Ohio State. Notre Dame's defense, they looked really, really good. Obviously, let the game slip away from them in the second half, but was up 10-7 in the first half. And usually, I'm a guy that is considering Notre Dame a fraudulent team, but hey, they could be pretty decent this year. I mean, Ohio State is obviously really, really good. And Notre Dame lost Brian Kelly, but I think that team, their defense is consistently good year in, year out. So Notre Dame, they're going to be pretty good this year after seeing that game. But Ohio State, they're still the real deal, legit. Ryan Day, love him as a coach. And yeah, definitely. If I had to pick I'm putting Ohio State probably in the playoffs this year.
They're definitely a favorite to be there for sure.
Yeah.
Notre Dame was fairly impressive for most of the game, but honestly, it was just kind of a week 1 matchup between teams that probably will be better in a little bit. That we know how good they probably will be down the road, especially Ohio State. So it's impressive on Notre Dame's standpoint because you seem to know how good Ohio State's probably going to be. Like, you watch CJ Stroud dominate, like last year, especially the end of last year. He's probably going to be that good again. Like, he has great receivers, great offensive talent. So you're kind of judging them based on, Ohio State's going to score 50 points a year this year. Well, yeah, they might, but they're obviously not that well oiled this first game. So another instance where I think preseason rankings are a little bit like, are you kidding me, guys? Like, what made you put Notre Dame as number 5 in the country? Seriously, what? They're losing their head coach. So you had a first-year head coach. They weren't a top 5 team last year, really. And it's not like they've had anybody magical come in or anything. It's like, yeah, they probably are a good team, but are they a top 5 team? I don't know. It's hard for me to put them up there, and they're still probably going to be. So this is all right. I'll get a little upset for a second. It doesn't happen very often, but I'll get a little upset for a second. Arkansas, good team last year, really good wins, good bowl win, same coach, same offensive coordinator, same defensive coordinator, led the Power 5 in rushing last year and returning so much of that same offense. They're ranked, around 20-ish or so. Beat a Cincinnati team who's in the playoff a year ago. Beat a Cincinnati team who's probably going to win the American Athletic, if not come in second. Actually won a game versus Notre Dame, who's in the first year of a head coach, who is, not. They were probably a fringe top 25 team last year. I don't know. Were they a little higher, maybe 15 or so?
Yeah.
Like their quarterback's nothing insanely special. Anyway, they're a top 5 team. Well, they lose. They lost by 11 points. Like, yeah, let's give them some credit, but they did lose by quite, like, they only scored 10 points.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not Ohio's defense wasn't exactly 85 Bears last season. Like that defense was. I remember Michigan scoring about 100 points on them. Like, ran for like so many yards against them last year. And so they're still probably going to be ranked ahead of Arkansas. I'm using Arkansas as the example here because that's obviously what I'm closest to, and a good team to use as an example. But it's just ridiculous to me that the preseason rankings affect our brains so much that we think they should be good, or some people in the media think they should be good. Are those people even watching? I don't know. It's just frustrating to me to, like, okay, so I'm a top 5 team, and all I've done so far is lose a game, and I'm still ahead of teams that have already, actually proved on the field that they can beat good teams. Anyway, just a little rant there just for a second on rankings. I think rankings are a little asinine, even though I'm getting a little worked up over them. It doesn't really matter. It's just it is perception though. So it does matter a little bit. Like, rankings are perception, and so it is a little bit important. It's better to see a higher number by your team's name. Like, you literally just, like, I know how good we are. I want everyone else to, like, I want it to be seen by everyone, like, how actually good this team is.
Yeah.
So anyway, but the only way to really take care of that is keep winning. Like, if and that's the case for Arkansas, Tennessee, everybody. Like, if they win the next 3 games, they're going to be a top 10 team. Like, that's how it works.
Yeah.
Especially when they have multiple opportunities. Like, if Tennessee goes on the road and beats Pittsburgh and then beats Florida at home, and they go into week 6, 5-0 or whatever, I mean, yeah, they're going to easily be a top 10 team, which is realistically on the table. The Hogs got a tough one. If they go in, so they got South Carolina this week, then Missouri State. So win this week, take care of business. Spencer Rattler's going to have some numbers. He's going to do some good things, but I think he'll make a few mistakes as well. That's what I think his game is. And maybe he can reel that in and be really good. But I think he does have arm talent. He does do good things and make exciting, electric plays. But I think he also is susceptible to make some big errors in big key moments. I think he's capable of throwing interceptions or making fumbles or just doing things that can hurt his team. That's kind of what changes quarterbacks. And there were moments, and that's why KJ Jefferson for Arkansas is important, because there are moments, it was like 3rd and 9, very important 3rd down. And he's able to, even if the play wasn't perfect, he's able to break down and make something happen and get the 1st down. Like, at a crucial moment, you either step up and make a play, or you make a mistake, or, you force a pass and throw an interception. Like the guy for Utah, who does a great job, like, leads them all, like, plays a, really good game. And then from the 2-yard line, throws a terrible interception with the game on the line. That, like, there are big moments in games, and the games between fairly equal teams come down to really big moments. And your leaders, especially the quarterback position, gets so hyper analyzed because they have the ball in their hands every play, and they're orchestrating kind of the offense. But you either have guys that step up and make plays to win games, or that get kind of trapped in the spotlight and make mistakes and make errors and cost their team the game. So anyway, just keep winning and find your way into the top 10. And then I'm really eyeing that Alabama game, October 1st. If Hogs take care of business, beat South Carolina, beat Missouri State, beat A&M, which is a big one. That'll be a big one too. In Jerry's world, oh, A&M and Arkansas actually like that'd probably be a top 12 matchup at that point. That'd be exciting.
Yeah.
So awesome to just get in the weeds of football. And I thought Arkansas was going to win all offseason, figure they are, but then you get in the game and it gets third quarter. It's a 1-score game. And it's like, all right, we're really in this now. Like we're out. All the talking, all the offseason talking is done. We are hitting people now.
It's time for action now.
We're hitting people now. And so it's fun to be 1-0. It's fun to have some more challenges upcoming. That's football, baby. Let's go. Football. Volunteers going to take over Steelers, Pittsburgh City, Steel City. They're beating down Pitt. I think Pitt got really lucky last week to even beat West Virginia.
Yeah.
And I think they're even it's gonna lull them to sleep a little bit until a little sense of security, and then I think Tennessee will come out and knock them around a little bit.
Come out swinging.
Yeah.
I hope that's the case for sure. But yeah, so we got one more game that I want to talk about before we close this out here. Game of the weekend.
You last night. It hurt you last night. I know it had to.
It hurt me last night for sure. I had I'll keep it undisclosed, but a good chunk of money on LSU -4, and man, this game was up and down. LSU looked terrible, honestly, through the first half. They couldn't really get anything going. The defense was looking decent for the first half, but then started getting shredded really in the second half. But yeah, the story of the game. So LSU down, down 2 scores with 6 minutes left, I want to say. Down with, they scored, let me double check. So they scored with 9 minutes to go in the fourth. So going into the fourth quarter, 9 minutes left. LSU is down. They end up scoring. Had a nice little drive to get it to 24-17. They need to get a stop with 4 minutes left to go. They do get the stop on Florida State, but the crazy thing is they muff the punt on the 1 yard line or the 3 yard line, something like that. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe they just muffed the punt. The game's over. Miracle happens. They punch out the ball on the 1, get a fumble, get the ball back with about, I want to say, let's see here. Yeah, a minute. Yeah. Minute 20 left. So they drive and they use a minute 20. They used a minute 20 to drive 99 yards, score the game tying touchdown, what I thought was going to be the game tying touchdown, to take it to overtime, which then I was hoping they'd get a touchdown, we'd cover, be all good. And no, that was not the case. Florida State makes an incredible play, blows through their offensive line and blocks the extra point to hold on. They had a blocked field goal earlier in the game, and Wilson sent this to us earlier this morning. They made adjustments on that left side to add a little extra help, and it didn't even make a difference. Florida State blew it right through, blocked the extra point. And wow, what a freaking game. That was one of the best games I've watched in a while. That fourth quarter was incredible.
What a way to cap off. Like the first game of the weekend, really kind of Pitt in West Virginia was just electric. And then you go all the way to Sunday night and it's LSU, Florida State, just craziness, just straight chaos. Yeah, Florida State's on the 1 yard line looking up to go up by 2 touchdowns with a minute left. And they fumble, and all of a sudden LSU goes 99 only to miss the extra point. Just brutal, just your up and down roller coaster that is college football. I don't really think either of these teams is particularly great. Nothing really stood out as like, wow, that really.
Neither team I don't think is going to be great, but still made for an interesting game.
Yeah, no, it made for a great game. Brian Kelly, two kind of misfit coaches in my opinion. Mike Norvell seems like a odd fit at Florida State, and Brian Kelly certainly seems like an odd fit there at LSU. So, a battle of those guys. But yeah, or LSU just didn't have it the whole game, really. They didn't play very good. And then with the chance, actually come out and have an awesome, amazing game tying drive only to miss it. Oh, that's brutal. And it really did get blocked. I mean,
Yeah,
like
they blew up.
There was another kicker, like East Carolina game, dude misses an extra point to tie the game, but he just shanked it. Like he literally shanked the extra point. Shout out Laces out. You gotta come on. He hit him with the laces in. I mean, that's on the whole.
Jack Probst would have got those laces in.
Yeah, he would have definitely had those laces out. But anyway, this one got straight blocked. That guy just flew through there and blocked it. And that's just insane. So I was watching and it was muted, so I couldn't even hear at the end. And I turned it on with 1 second left, them reviewing that play, whether he got out of bounds or not, which also at the same time is very confusing to me because the answer they essentially just allowed LSU to get a play regardless. They said he was down in bounds, but but theoretically the clock would start.
Florida State.
Yeah, they ended up calling a timeout. Yeah, they did end up calling timeout. But if they called him inbounds, even if the clock would have stopped, it would have started again with 1 second left. Like they would have had to.
It would have been tough. They could have done it.
Yeah, they could have done it, but it would have been really hard to get that play off at all. But since they had already stopped the clock, they just were like, yeah, they get this last play. Yeah, like they essentially, even though they changed the call, I think like they called him out of bounds. Well, they called him inbounds, but they still essentially it was the same as him being out of bounds. Mm-hmm. Because they gave him one last play, which is all they would have had regardless. So, anyway, to score like that and just to have that amazing drive, and then just miss the extra point. It's just funny, honestly. But fun game nonetheless. I definitely probably picked LSU. But it is what it is. Football's awesome. And next week we get college and NFL. Oh, so awesome.
We're in the thick of it, baby. I'm excited.
We're right into it. Titans, not a nooner, 3:30 game. Versus the Giants. Game we need to jump out
on 9/11 too for the New York Giants. They're going to be fighting their asses off in that game. So for America, it's going to be tough. But I think Titans are favored 4.5, right? Something like that.
Something like that. That seems about right. Big game to win. I mean, you just want to come out week one and somehow find a way to get a win against a Giants team that we should beat. Like that's the thing in the NFL. Titans schedule is tough for this year. And so you've got to win the games you're supposed to win because the other ones are tough to get. So need to come out with the win, show some good things. And I think the defense, I don't think they're going to score a ton on us. I think we should shut down their offense pretty good. So just need Tannehill and healthy Henry to do their thing. Be fun to see Henry back. I mean, we haven't seen him in the preseason also. Definitely been in camp working, but be fun to see Henry get the rock and get going, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome. Oh man, I'm excited. But I think that is it for today's episode. Another great one. I mean, we're getting into the thick of it now. Plenty of stuff to talk about. So there is no shortage of content. I know I'm going to be getting some gambling picks out here soon as the NFL rolls around and as college football starts heating up. So be on the lookout for that. Seth has been cranking out some articles as well. So definitely be making sure to keeping up with the website to see those articles coming out. But thanks again for everyone listening. You can find us on Twitter at paydirt_sports, Instagram at paydirtsports, one word, and the website that I mentioned, paydirtsports.blog. And don't forget to check out Six Pack Coverage. That is at Six Pack Coverage for all your sports, food, entertainment, culture, all the above, all kinds of stuff you can check out through Six Pack Coverage as well. But I think that's it, boys. We will see you next week. Pay Dirt out.
Deuces, yo.